So AOL, this is like 1996, 97. Internet was dial up. Yes, kids, dial up internet. Yeah, so like I remember like there was a chat room and I was like, oh, like cool, like it was a kids chat room and just I think we were talking about like Pokemon or something, and some person like sends me like a message, and I was like, oh, only to find out then like sends an image and it's this like old white person and it's old white man just like, oh, can we be friends? And I was like terrified, right? It was like a full body. Just imagine, would you? Yeah, Janet O. And then, and I remember being freaked out in that moment, right? 90, if that was 96, no, 97. So I was like 7 years old, 6, 7, being freaked out, going to my mom, be like, oh my God, like, no chat room for you, A. But also then the conversation, like, well, okay, if this is a part of the internet culture, you need to really understand the ground rules, like, don't make friends on in these chat rooms, right? That you don't know, like, if it's your school friends, different story. But I think that exposure of like seeing a person in image like that, it was like a can of worms that opened. I was like, okay, okay, don't tell anyone this happened, right? It's funny now that because we always bring up this conversation, we're like, oh, do you remember how scared you were? I'm like, yeah, terrified. But I think that has a lot to do with this like lack of knowledge around that, right? Different bodies, like if we think about like that's virtual bad touch. Now that if we want to talk about bad touch, like that's a virtual form of bad touch. Like that's unconsented. Like I did not consent to that. Like why would you send me? Knowing that, like now imagine what would happen if kids in like today's day and age were to go out and ask questions, what would they be exposed to? So why not build that trust, that empathy, that connection, like in your home ground, with your family, with your teachers? You know, provide them the support that they need, provide them the tools, the resources, because there are so much more. It isn't this Ontario curriculum mandated, like, here's what sexual health is. There's so much more now. So, like, offer that. If they have questions, that's a good thing. If they don't, then that's them taking their time to understand the material, understand their own bodies as well. Rather be the first person that they could go to instead of elsewhere. And I think that a lot of that goes back to safety as well, right? Feeling safe in these spaces. How are you, if you're not feeling safe at home, how is the teacher the next moment, the next space for that safety, that comfort?